Welcome into 11 Personnel, presented by Monticello Bank. I'm Nick Roush. He's Adam Luckett. And I'm going to start today's show by congratulating the chat. First one in the chat, Adam Luckett.
You're either elite or you're not, Nick Roush. And elite means on time. We are an elite podcast today. So all you chatters, bite me.
Oh, man. I will say, though, I have been feeling a little too slow. I mentioned this on KS Board, but the folks on KSR Plus right now, they keep beating me to the punch with news. I think I've got the first dibs on a thread. I start it. There's already another thread. So they're on it right now. KS Board's elite. If you aren't on there, go ahead and get on there. There's a lot happening right now. It's December 17th, a week away from Christmas Eve. This time next week, the old fat man will be getting ready to load up his sleigh and hit the road. But today, we're talking Kentucky football. We got the chance to chit-chat with Joey Sloan, the new Kentucky offensive coordinator for the first time today. Had a 30-minute intro press conference. We're going to get to that. A lot of new staff additions, too. A little more Louisville flair. Bobby Petrino. The Bobby Petrino tree has entered the chat. So quite a bit going on. We also got the college football playoff kicking off this weekend. We're going to discuss it all. But first, I got to tell you, Monticello Bank, been in business since 1895. See that right there? NBC, it says 1895 on the hat. It's kind of hard to make it out. 1895. That's a long dang time. You know how you stay in business that long? You treat people right. At Monticello Bank, it's where people matter. They're all across the state, all across the Commonwealth, hooking you up with the best rates on your mortgages, whatever it may be, whatever your banking needs are. Monticello Bank has you covered. And if you're not near one of their convenient locations, they got 21 in 15 different counties. If you're not near one, just go to NBCBank.com, visit them online. You can also take them anywhere with you with the Go NBC mobile app. It's Monticello Bank, where people matter. Member FDIC, equal housing lender, and proud presenting sponsors of 11 Personnel. Mr. Luckett, we get to do a little bit of the good old fashioned question and answering today. It was nice. I want to, before we get into like the substance of it, let me just start by saying Joe Sloan, very comfortable behind a microphone. Like he was, you could tell that that's an ideal setting for him. I get a sense, without having spoken to any of the other assistants, that he is probably going to be the most vocal, the most charismatic member of Will Stein's coaching staff. Not necessarily Vince Marrow. They're two different kind of guys, but an elite recruiter who knows how to work a room like that. He fits that billing, Mr. Luckett.
Yeah, when I was doing some research, Nick, on Joe Sloan, just trying to figure out what he is, what's like the track record, I came across a feature on The Athletic, and I'm throwing this in the chat right now so you can click that to go read it. I'm just going to read you the opening part of this.
Okay.
It was basically like LSU is having a coaches clinic, essentially. So there's a bunch of Louisiana high school coaches at this, I guess, at LSU, at the facility. Brian Polian, who was LSU special teams coordinator, and I think maybe director of recruiting, high school relations, something along those lines, introduced Joe Sloan, LSU's quarterback, and said, I like to call him the mayor because he knows everyone in town. And this gets to just Sloan was just they called him the mayor at LSU, and he knows everyone. He got to know everyone. He kind of touched on that today. If you watch the press conference, kind of just talked about, how he got started in Louisiana. He's not from that area, but he became like kind of this recruiter and a guy who knew everybody in Louisiana. And he was one of Brian Kelly's first hires. Not one first hire, but an important hire for Kelly because he had Louisiana connections. And that was a big question mark for Kelly. But a lot of that came from he just spent a long time at Louisiana Tech. And we saw that play out immediately, Nick, before he was even announced when they got Kenny Darby, right? The receiver from Louisiana, closed on him. And so he is going to be Kentucky's offensive coordinator and primary play caller. But Will Stein even touched on this, I think, in his official remarks, just the connections in the recruiting he can bring specifically in the South for Kentucky. And I think you saw some of that with how he can hold a room, to your point, behind the microphone.
Yeah, and to your point, just specifically about recruiting, because I think there are reasons why Kentucky fans might be a little skeptical. Really, you're going to go recruit Louisiana, Kentucky? I mean, I know we got Van Hiles, but you can't go and get everybody because the Tigers they eat first in that state. But as Sloan put it, recruiting's kind of the same no matter where you do it, right? It's all about relationships. I know that a dollar figure that's been a big talking point amongst BBN as of late. That certainly plays a role. But as he said, the biggest key is, especially for those the players around, or the people around the players, right? Whether it's a coach, a parent, a mentor, trainer, whoever it may be, convincing them that you have the right plan in place for their child to be successful. He wasn't tying himself to Louisiana. He's saying, we're going to do that to get the best players we can here, wherever that may be. And so I could understand why you're skeptical, but I think also if you listen to him talk, you could see why. You could see yourself buying into him being a recruiter that can be kind of a chameleon wherever it may be, that he can kind of go in, hold a room, and convince the decision makers. The decision maker isn't always the player, Mr. Luckett. We saw the story of Legend Bay, the kid who wanted to go to Ohio State. Mom was like, no, I'm not going to let you sign with him. So he signs with Tennessee reluctantly, and ultimately is getting released from that to go to Ohio State. But mom wasn't going to let him go. So sometimes you got to convince the mom, whoever it may be, and that's going to be Sloan, his task as a recruiter. You even touched on the recruiting aspect, specifically when it pertains to the offensive line, because that is we can beat that horse to death, and you kind of need to, because it's got to get fixed.
Yeah, and again, like, you need time to fix it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I crunched the numbers today, Nick, after we asked Sloan that question, or asked Sloan just what's the strategy going to be for your OL build. Definitely seemed like he'd rather Will Stein answer that, or even the new offensive line coach. But
I think his line was, Will makes more money than me, so
right.
He can answer that.
Which is a great line.
Yeah,
which is a great line. That's the other guy. He's the buck stops with him, not me. But yeah, I think they have 12 offensive linemen, scholarship players, Nick.
It's not a lot.
Some are full, some are not. But yeah, you need more players. But only one of those guys played more than 50 offensive snaps for Kentucky last season. That would be starting right guard Jalen Farmer.
Yep.
So
and I guess Malachi Wood got a couple here and there, a couple dozen maybe.
He was in the 40s, but there wasn't a lot of playing time going around for the guys returning, and some of them, you look at them, are just really young and that need some time to develop. And then they added only 2 players this last recruiting cycle: 3-star tackle Cameron Miller, and junior college guard Jordan Knox. So it's not a lot there. Like, they're gonna have to portal. They're gonna have to portal guys, but it's also essential, I think, starting in this 2027 recruiting class, that they really do a cleanup job in this first offensive line recruiting classes. We're going to hear a lot, Nick, about how Oregon was a 3-time Joe Moore Award finalist 3 years in a row. I don't think they've picked a winner yet. They're up for it. I think Iowa's probably going to win that award, but I think Oregon is definitely in the mix there. So we're going to hear about that. And Kentucky's getting a part of one of the coaches that was a part of all that. Not only Stein, but Cutter Leftwich, the offensive line coach.
Right.
But how are they going to build that here? And is it sustainable? Like, can they keep going into this portal market and buying multiple starters and still address their other needs? Like, you can't. It feels like that's something you can't do every year. Eventually, you got to break the wheel.
And my working theory is that with the dollar figures that offensive linemen are commanding, particularly at offensive tackle. I'm starting to become of the belief that you can't do both in a portal. You can't do quarterback and offensive tackles. It's kind of got to be one of the other, just from a budget balancing sheet. And, we can get to the quarterback in a minute, but that's, to your point, I think his words were there's a short-term plan and a long-term plan. And the short-term plan probably will be some form or fashion doing the flex seal and just smacking it on there.
Yeah, I thought that was a good way to phrase it.
Yeah.
Right. Like we got to do what we got to do. Right. In the short term. Right.
Right.
You got to do what you got to do.
You're figuring it out, this roster build, just as best you can, with what you have.
Right. Say you buy a car and you had to make a big car payment. Like, sorry, honey, we're not going to Illinois Pal this week. Like, we're going to have to eat at home. Right.
Yeah.
So you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah. We're making the rice and beans from the store bought.
Might have to have peanut butter and jelly one night for dinner.
Yeah. No fajitas.
You got to do what you got to do. And that's what Kentucky has to do. They're going to have to go to the portal. They're going to have to get multiple offensive line starters and then try to develop the group and add to it and then go from there. So I think that's the right strategy. I think, I get why they probably don't want to say it, but they have to fix, you've got to go and get high school kids and you got to develop them, the offensive line. The other thing with that, Nick, too, is like we talked about, typically these guys, you get them in the offensive linemen, they want to stay at one place. Like you don't see a lot of moving. That's part of the reason why I think it's so hard to, enter the portal and get them there because it's just not a lot and it's just a hard position. Like you're going to have turnover there. Even the best at this, they have turnover in the offensive line. They miss on guys. Mm-hmm. But that to me, it's why it's so important to sign 3-4 every class because you want to get more swings at the plate.
Yeah.
And so that what Kentucky's done here lately, like this class, you can't sign one high school player in the class. Like you just can't.
No, that was an abject failure by the previous regime. Something that's got to be remedied. We'll talk a little bit more about the specific new hires that many of which came out on Saturday. We also got a new one last night. But I mentioned offensive lineman or quarterback. Congrats to us. We made it 13 minutes without mentioning Cutter Boley. Great job, everybody. We did good. We went as long as we could. But that is the most pressing topic at hand, right? Like if we're getting a question from any random Joe, it's about Cutter Boley. Your name was all over the place yesterday, Mr. Lockett. All over the place.
I was. It was
my favorite was seeing it on graphics where where people were making, the kind of quote cards per Adam Lockett KSR.
Yeah. Which on 3 does the shame or stuff at the bottom. It was just Lockett. Cutter Boley.
Because you were on KSR and you said you expect Cutter Boley to be quarterback 1 next year. And if you've been paying attention online, if you're following along with everything, if you're on KS board, right. That was our Monday, was saying that, right?
It's been dating back to, I think, even last week.
Yeah. But even more so in recent days, that has been a point of conversation. And yet, we still haven't heard anything from Cutter. So everybody is kind of on pins and needles, walking around on eggshells, waiting to hear what number 8's going to do. And you know what? Maybe he's waiting for the head coach to get here. We don't know. We don't know what the case is. I do think the anxiety was significantly amplified when Monday became transfer portal quarterback day. DJ Lagway, Dylan Raiola, all the way down to Aaron Fowler at Georgia Tech. Like there's just a lot of Childs at Michigan State. There's just a lot of names that got thrown into the portal, and so I think naturally people are worrying. But everything we've heard off the record and on the record has been pretty positive about Cutter Boley. And today Sloan said, "Yeah, I'm excited to work with him. I've seen him every day. I've been here. I think he showed a lot late in the season, and I think he's got a bright future." So for all intents and purposes, that's the plan. That's the way. But it's not It's not all the way there yet. So there's a lot of people who are kind of just like,
Here's the phrasing I've used from the beginning, and I'm going to continue to use. It is trending that way for Cutter Boley to be back and be the starting quarterback, and for them to probably pay him starting quarterback money. He is, I think, the clubhouse favorite right now. If I was a betting man, Nick Roush, and you made me go to the window, I'd put my hard-earned money down that Cutter Boley would be the starting quarterback. But
minus 500 odds probably.
There's moving parts in all of this, but
yeah,
I think you look at it. I think let's take our insider hat off, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Let's just be college football people from the outside. Okay, Cutter Boley is a year one starting quarterback at Kentucky. He 5-17, 15 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. Had good moments, had bad moments.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. What kind of market? Like, what's the real market? Like, he's not in the players we just mentioned. I would say that territory. Like, he's not going to be tier one quarterback. But for Kentucky and for Boley, I think for them it just makes a ton of sense for them to kind of get there. And for Kentucky, you're looking at it. All right, guys. Like, this team needs a handful of starters, bare minimum. Bare minimum.
Yeah.
They're going to need probably more than that. All right. Quarterback's probably going to be the most expensive. Okay. Do you want to go out and get someone from, do you want to do the Calzada thing again, or do you want to get someone in your building who knows your players, who's probably going to help you keep this roster together, and still is early, I would say, in his trajectory, right?
Oh, and in the other part for Boley, if you look at it from his perspective, I can't get inside his head, but we saw what Mark Stoops did with quarterbacks. His analyst, Mike Hartline, that guy was the last guy to throw for 3,000 yards at Kentucky. It's 15 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Boley went out, played pretty well. Not well enough to keep the old guy's job, but well enough that the AD went out and said, we need a guy who can develop quarterback talent. So let's go get one of the best offensive play callers in the country, right? Who's coached 2 Heisman Trophy finalists. Oh, and then let's get an offensive coordinator who's a quarterback coach for a Heisman Trophy winner. Like, it makes sense. It makes sense for everything. It's just you got to cross T's and dot I's, and that's it gives that adds a new wrinkle to it, and I think that's the reason for any of the delay. But as you said, even from the outside looking at it, it all makes sense. Just makes sense. And then even you put the
in-state kid on top of everything else.
Yeah. It makes a lot of sense. And on top of it all, they're all saying the right things. What we're hearing behind the scenes, everything feels right. So just a little bit of a waiting game for Kentucky football fans for right now. But so far, it sounds good. I don't think you need to be sweating.
Again, trending. It's trending in that direction. If we hear it's not trending in that direction, we'll let you know. But as we've said from the beginning, I wouldn't say the beginning, but for a while now, it's been trending in that direction. The second thing I do want to point out, as we've reported, that even if Boley comes back, they're still going to be in the market probably for a quarterback in the portal. Now, I don't think it's going to be a quarterback to come in and like have a true competition with Boley, but I think they definitely want to have someone to be a quality backup in case something happens.
Well, they were looking at the guy that the UCLA guy that ended up at Virginia Tech.
You're talking about he ended up at Virginia Tech. He was at Kent State and then went to UCLA. And I remember
he was the running guy. Yeah. There's that guy. A couple years
back. You're going to see something like that. I'm going to pull up that guy. You're going to see. Why can't I remember? I
can't remember his name. And then there was even the Troy guy a few years back that hurt his elbow.
Smith.
Yeah, Sawyer Smith. Like because
that was Colin Schlee.
Colin Schlee. There you go. Because what Sloan said today, he's like,
that's what I was getting to. Yeah.
Every college football roster, you need 4 quarterbacks on it, right? I mean, just like you need 10 receivers, 5 or 6 tight ends, whatever it may be. Like you got to fill out a roster. And I think the other part that you got to consider too is it's not like Bo Allen has another year of eligibility lying around. I mean, don't put it past him. He might somewhere, but like Cutter just finished his redshirt freshman year. Brennan Ward just finished his true freshman year, played a couple snaps, and then the other guy on the roster is getting ready to play baseball. You know, like that's his sport, right? He's finishing high school.
Got full spring ahead, yeah.
Yeah, so like, you know, I could understand why they would feel the need to get a guy because can you name the seasons that under Mark Stoops where they didn't play two quarterbacks? Where they didn't start two quarterbacks, I should say. Because it's
2021.
Yep.
And then
there's one more recently, too.
2014, Tulsa's year. Did they start one? I know he started multiple in 2013 and multiple 2015, but Tulsa's year, I think 2014, I think he started from start to
14, he started all of them, and then 23, the Leary year. Leary started all those games. So
there was even a time where he had a concussion. We thought he might not start the Alabama game.
Yeah, so 3 out of 13 years that Kentucky started the same quarterback in every single game. Guys get hurt. That's how Boley got his chance. So you gotta have a roster that's ready for it. So if you do get any smoke about that, I don't think there's reason to scare Boley off. But you know that's something to monitor when we get closer to the transfer portal. I know there are a lot of announcements right now that guys are going in and going out, or planning on going in and going out. Stone Saunders was one where I didn't want to say it while he was here, but I was. You want to talk about going to the window? I would have bet a lot of money that he was never going to take a snap at Kentucky. Like that wasn't going to happen. The way things worked out, Cullen brought him here. Cullen wasn't here when he got here. Like that wasn't going to be a thing. So I don't think there's reasons to be too sad about that by any means. But there will be more players. Gerard Smith did a BBN robot arm flex, which I guess that means he's locked in. But we haven't had a lot of firm announcements one way or the other, but I'm sure that will pick up in the days leading into the transfer portal when that eventually opens on January 2nd.
Well, I think, number one, like, Nick, do you remember when people try to decipher the Lynn Bowden tweets?
Oh, that was a fun time in my life. Let me tell you about that.
So just always, just tread lightly, I would say.
Yeah.
With that. But some of these guys, Nick, they don't have their position coaches yet, right? Or maybe they haven't talked to them yet. So, and there's still time. It's not like the portal is right now. You still got time to get in there if you were to leave.
Mm-hmm.
And so we still got a window here before we get to the real window, which is January 2nd when things officially get started. Nick, what I'm interested to see when it finally gets here, is this going to be like NFL and NBA free agency where right when it opens, we're going to hear A commits to Tech U, B commits to State Tech, C commits to Old State U, or is it going to take some time? Because stuff is happening right now, and there will be tampering.
Yeah, and I just wonder, to your point, how many of them are prepared to do sight unseen and just commit Johnny on the spot, or do they still want to go through the visit process, or are these guys even over that? Because it's felt like for a while that they're, some of these guys still like being recruited a little bit. There's just less time to do it. So we'll find out about that. But first, let's go ahead and talk about some of the new Kentucky assistants after I tell you about game time. Because, folks, it's a great time to buy tickets to your favorite events. Whether you're doing a little last-minute Christmassy stuff, I believe Trans-Siberian Orchestra just came into. There's a lot of great Christmas events. I went to one last week, got another one coming up around the corner. But you might not have had a gift for your loved one yet. Get them a ticket to a concert or a show coming to Rupp Arena or the Yum Center. Whatever your ticket needs may be, Game Time has you covered. The World Cup next summer, that's a big ticket item that Game Time will have you locked in with. The College Football Playoff this weekend. We got home games in College Station, in Eugene, all across the country. Just go ahead. make sure when you buy your tickets, you do it with Game Time. The best part about Game Time is that it's an all-inclusive experience. You're not going to get dinged with fees at the end. Nothing's the worst like it than when you go to checkout and it's not the price of what you see on there, right? So whenever your wife goes to, she's going to get her country concert. I don't know
which every time. Taylor just catching strays for Nick Roush on here all the time.
I don't know who, because when she goes to these country concerts, they're people I don't know because I'm not, I don't know
who Riley Green is.
No, like I found out that was a boy. I thought it was a girl.
Grandpa's Never Die. I wish my grandpa. Someone in the chat knows it. That's
I don't
know that song.
Yeah, no. I don't know who these people are, but they go to the Yum Center. Taylor has a great time. Heather, they all have a rootin' tootin' time. And you know what? I hope they're getting their tickets to the Game Time because they got the best prices for tickets there. And if you've never been on Game Time before, use the promo code ON3. You're going to get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. GameTime.co. Download the Game Time app. Use that promo code ON3 and get $20 off your first purchase at Game Time. All right, look, I'm probably going to forget somebody, but let's start with the offensive line because we mentioned that previously with Cutter Leftwich. I'm going to lump in Cutter Leftwich with Tony Washington Jr. as well, the assistant. I don't know if it was assistant D-line.
He's outside linebackers coach. They said defensive end, outside linebackers coach, but technically, he's your edge coach.
Yeah, he's coaching pass rushers at UK, but he's got experience with the defensive line previously. My favorite Tony Washington fun fact is he was the guy who scooped and scored Jameis Winston's funniest fumble ever back in the 2013 Rose Bowl, 2014, one of those years.
It would have been the 2014 season, the 2015 Rose Bowl.
Yeah, with the ball.
It was the first playoff game ever. That was the first playoff game ever. That was the first year of the 14 playoff.
So that wasn't that very long ago. In Leftwich, you said it yesterday. He was in the class of 2017 in high school. So that is after De'Aaron Fox. He was in the same high school recruiting class as Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. Doesn't feel very long ago, right? SGA, he's pretty well accomplished, but some of those guys from that class might still be playing college basketball similar. Shout out Baby Dev. I know he was a few years younger, but still. Point being, with these trench guys, it's a bet to get important position coaches that are that young. It is a bet.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I kind of like the bet because you're getting these guys who have worked at big-time programs that have served as second command and are looking for their first big break. So you would presume that they're pretty hungry, motivated, etc. I know what assuming does. But at the same time, if you're going to bet on somebody that's unproven, guy at Oregon who's been around Joe Moore Award finalist, guy who's been at Ohio State where they turned Arvell Reese into somebody who hadn't played into damn first edge off the board. Okay, right? This feels like Mitch Barnhart called Will Stein a risk taker. This feels like a calculated risk that feels like you see the vision of how it can work out and be a success. Yeah,
a calculated risk is a good phrasing for it, Nick. I think you have at a place like Kentucky, you got to be willing to make some bets. I think betting on ascending coaches is not a bad idea, right? Like Cutter Leftwich got hired by Oregon twice. Okay,
that's important. They wanted him back.
Yeah, he got hired by Eric Morris, who just got the Oklahoma State job, to coach offensive line when he was 25 years old. So he's worked with Will Stein for multiple years. He's ascending, right? Like he's on the rise. His football family, his dad was a longtime offensive line coach. His brother is an offensive coordinator. Mac Leftwich is offensive coordinator at Texas Tech. His brother's like 31, 32 years old. So he's ascending. And so Stein has worked with him. On the outside linebacker coach, Tony Washington Jr., worked with Stein at Oregon. He's been hired, Nick, by Oregon and UCLA to be a position coach before the age of 35 already. So he's already moving forward. And at what I've uncovered, but couldn't get it confirmed, but it didn't sound like he got fired at UCLA. He just left for Ohio State, and got to work behind Larry Johnson, who is like the best defensive line coach in the world.
The best.
Yeah, he's like renowned in the field. So,
Yeah.
So your bet again is the guy Stein worked with, because it's one thing to hire someone you haven't worked with. Stein has worked with both these guys, so he's seen them firsthand. And then you're betting on, like, if you wait 5 years, Nick, you're not hiring Cutter Leftwich or Tony Washington, probably, if their careers go how you think it's going to go. So you have to be to the party early. And so Kentucky's trying to be to the party earlier. I do think there's concern, like less so on defense, but with Leftwich specifically, it's such an important position. Specifically, Stein's offense, when they've cooked at Oregon, have had great offensive lines, and we've talked about just the need there at the position with Kentucky. It's so important, and he is young, and so like you're betting a lot on him if you're Stein. So we'll see how it works out. But he's worked with him; he's ascending. Seems like a lot of people value him, and if you wait 3 years, you're probably not going to be able to hire him if he continues on this path.
Yeah. And the other part of it too is you mentioned, I think you mentioned it, but like Cutter Leftwich's brother, I don't know if did he win the Broyles Award, or is he was just nominated for it a couple of times.
I don't think he's won the Broyles Award.
Yeah, I don't think he's won it, but he's been up for it multiple times, and I think he's younger than us and has been the Texas Tech offensive coordinator for a couple of years now. Comes from a coaching family, so it's not like this isn't something he's built for. I like that aspect of it. I was a big fan of that hire despite the improvement. Same thing with Tony Washington Jr. There's a lot of young guys, so there is a little bit of calculated risk. As far as some of the other coaches too, the Colby Smith is the most recent hire we learned about. I remember the name very well, and I told you this morning on our way to Lexington too that it made me feel very old because I was like, oh yeah, Colby Smith just played at Louisville. It's like, no, that was 20 years ago. He's been a coach for more than a decade. So on the young-ish side, he's under 40, I believe, or right around 40.
41.
Okay, yeah. So young-ish, but he's coached for a decade. He's been in the SEC, spent time with the Miami Dolphins, including some time with Mike McDaniel when they were really rocking and rolling, well before Tua got benched like he did earlier today. But he is bringing the Bobby Petrino tree with him because he spent most of his time I think all but 1 year in the college ranks was with Petrino. He did a year at Rutgers when Isaiah Pacheco was there. But Colby Smith, he's had some pretty talented running backs over the years. They hired him. That's 3 former Cards now on staff. You got Stein, Nocta, and Smith. So, decent little bit of Louisville flavor over here, and there's also some UK flavor over there because the player, the trade and the player to be named later for Pete Nocta, Chase Heike, is now working for Jeff Bromwell and Floyd Street.
Yeah, I had a nice little trade there. Like Jay Bateman was apparently the Kentucky sent Derek Shea, but Kentucky got to keep Stoops, and they got Jay Bateman in that trade. That was the trade. That was that was how they worked out the A&M trade.
Hey,
but
it's not as wild as the trade between LSU and Ole Miss, where
that's what they would call a blockbuster.
Yeah, because they lose Kiffin to LSU, and they lose what's his name, Charlie Weiss Jr. But they take Frank Miller and they keep Pete Goldings. Frank Miller was the interim for LSU. They're big time recruiter there.
Frank Wilson.
Frank Wilson. Sorry, yeah. But that was a fun little dipsy do on Tuesday night that had Twitter on one.
Yeah,
that game
early in the year too. They gave it to us early, so I think that was calculated. Let's make sure Ole Miss doesn't like totally fall apart before we get to this game.
That game feels like it could have Bears Commanders potential, where those teams play early in the season and whoever loses just completely sucks for the rest of the year, and then the other one's awesome. Feels like there's potential for that one.
I thought you were going to the crowd. It's going to be like Ole Miss, Tennessee again.
Oh, I'm just throwing batteries and golf balls.
Just an unhinged environment there in Hotty Toddy land.
Oh man, it's gonna be a drunk environment too. A lot of angry frat bros.
Cold beers will be had in Oxford that weekend. But back to Kobe Smith, Stein, I believe, QC'd Bobby Petrino's first year back, ACC takeover year, 2014 for the Louisville Cardinals. And then he left for Texas after that. But Kobe Smith was the running backs coach. So there is kind of your overlap with them. And it seemed like, Nick, they made a real run at Jabbar Jalouk.
Yeah.
He ends up picking Texas, moved to Smith. I think Smith's resume is interesting, right? You look at it, ACC school, he goes to the NFL, gets to learn kind of the school of wide zone with McDaniel. Wide zone is going to be something that Stein runs here. So you have it from that point, and then, you're at Arkansas, you get the SEC experience, but obviously everything's been with Petrino. I'm with Smith to this point. And does that open the door? Eventually, you have to wonder is Will Stein going to make a big kind of QC hire, like an old head coach come in here, right? I've seen Charlie Strong asked about in the chat. I've always thought Strong, if he came here, it would be as kind of a QC. People flirted out defensive coordinator, this or that. That always made the most sense to me. Joe Sloan, who's real tight with Skip Holtz. Skip Holtz just retired from the UFL. Is he maybe a guy they would bring in? Or could it be Bobby Petrino? Now, Bobby Petrino is up for the North Carolina offensive coordinator job, which is what we need. We need more Bobby Petrino content. And him with Belichick would be great content.
Those curmudgeons. Man, imagine them in a room together.
I believe Garrett McGee is the receivers coach there, North Carolina. So I think that's probably the connection, right? Garrett, if you don't know, McGee was a long time kind of Bobby Petrino assistant. I believe he was a Brom the first couple of years, and then he went to North Carolina.
That sounds right. Yeah.
So we're running in. We have entered the Louisville coaching tree Venn diagram, Nick Rouse, with the Stein hire. There's no denying that, and I think it's going to be weird for a lot of people.
From the outside of the coaching profession, it's hard to grapple with, but this is a profession where they change jobs all the time. I mean, it's very transient, and they want to beat the brakes off of them. But then, opportunities come up. You want to, I don't know, that. I think the reason why it's maybe hitting a little bit harder now than maybe so in the past is because we are just much more in tune with all of the assistants and staffers and everything of the like. Because, Greg Nord, how many times did he flip back and forth between Kentucky and Louisville over the years? But I just don't think people cared that much back in the 90s and early 2000s. So, this isn't anything new. I just think we're a lot more locked in that regard. And we also remember these guys playing there. I mean, if you're in your 30s, you watch these guys play football at UFL. So it's a little bit different when you remember them as players and their coach was calling you a bunch of slapdicks and they were beating you. It was just so it's a little different. For me, particularly with Colby Smith, where it's not just one of this isn't a guy that Stein's worked with in the past. I mean, we saw some overlap when he was a player, but Kobe Smith's been a coach at a lot of places. He's been in the SEC. He's got plenty of experience. I want to stay out of the family tree, not the coaching tree, the Bobby Petrino family tree. I don't need any sons or sons-in-laws or any of that. Let's stay out of the family tree, and I'll be content. I don't Bobby Petrino, quality control analyst, fine. Nick Petrino, I'm good on that.
You get to Nick Petrino going to be the interim head coach in the Xbox Bowl this week, Nick. So you definitely have to check that out.
They played Halo at halftime?
Yeah, but they got rid of the Bahamas Bowl, and we've got the Xbox Bowl. See, every time they have a first down, do they play like, the Xbox the jingle when it turns on?
Right.
Everyone knows what I'm talking about.
That would be great.
Every time they get a first down, they should just play that.
That'd be awesome. I'd be all for it. We'll get into bowls in just a minute. Let's finish with the other hires because we did a rapid reaction to Jay Bateman, but he actually did speak earlier this week because A&M's preparing for the playoff. So he did his sort of usual media appearance, conversation, press conference, whatever you want to call it. And, said, hey, I hope my guys don't notice any difference in me. When I get a night off, I'm spending a lot of time on the phone pouring into that job. This is a great opportunity. He said he likes Will Stein's vision. But the word he used was autonomy. And that kind of goes back to what we talked about, where you don't know how much of what Texas A&M's defense was Jay Bateman's responsibility versus Mike Elko's. This is going to be Jay Bateman's defense at Kentucky. That's ultimately what led to this opportunity. Even though it was kind of nice to hear him say nice things about Kroger Field when Ray Davis was running all over them during his time at Florida. This was all about having control of this defense. And one of his first moves was hiring a guy he worked with at Army, Mr. Luckett.
Yeah, I think with Jay Bateman, I think that's important. He gets to be the head coach of the defense, essentially. Like, how important it was for Mark Stoops to have, the offensive coordinator was running the whole ship over there in a lot of ways, right? And now it's the opposite. Like, Bateman's going to be kind of running things on that end. And, right, Josh Christian Young. One thing I want to say about Josh Christian Young, Nick, is if you were going to have head coach pound for pound the rankings, you know how they do in boxing, the pound for pound rankings?
Yeah.
Okay. The two guys that hired him multiple times, Jeff Monken and Willie Fritz, would be they'd be at the top or near the top of the pound for pound head coach rankings if we did those.
Makes the most out of the least. Yeah.
And he's have work experience with Bateman. And I think we haven't seen co-defensive coordinator title, but it would make sense that he would potentially be the number 2 over there. And so you got that. And with Bateman, Nick, really good recruiter. Everything you hear. DMV, I think you're going to see him be active there. But even at Florida and at Texas A&M, he was able to kind of recruit Florida. He was able to recruit Texas. So, again, similar to Sloan, he's really going to, I think, provide a splash as a recruiter for Kentucky. And he's got a ton of experience. So, you're worried about a young staff. He's not young. 52 years old. Has been in Power Conference football since 2009 or 19, I believe. So, long run in Power Conference football. But even before that, he was a defensive coordinator at Ball State, defensive coordinator at Army. So, he's seen a lot of football here. And he's got SEC experience, been in the SEC since 2022. So this will be his 5th consecutive year. He's coaching in the playoff this weekend. And so a lot to like about him. And then I think you saw he got to make kind of his own hire, and I expect him to coach linebackers. I expect Josh Christian Young to coach safeties. They still need a corners coach.
Yep.
Still need to make where are we at on Amor? What do you mean? Feels weird that they haven't kind of announced that yet.
Yeah, and maybe they decide they don't want to announce it, where it's do we announce somebody? But you would think that they would, which is a little odd. The Justin Burke thing is odd. I don't know what happened there, but I can say that CJ Conrad is in the mix if it isn't Justin Burke for the tight ends coach. And CJ's been a special teams coach. I think the last 2 years as well at Kent State, so they can add that title for him.
Broyles Award nominee special teams coordinator.
Yeah.
CJ Conrad at Kent State.
3 return touchdowns this year.
They need a special teams coordinator here.
Yeah.
That one
can make sense.
Ohio potentially be kind of your guy up there. Like it would make some sense. They asked Sloan today, or we asked Sloan, speaking for the media. I can't remember who exactly asked this question, just about kind of recruiting Louisiana. I think it was you who asked this.
Yeah.
They're not going to come out and say, like, we're targeting this area. We're going to focus here, this or that. I think they want to be flexible, for lack of a better phrasing. But, like, getting somebody with some Ohio ties would make some sense here, right? Like, you worry less about it in state to me, Nick, because you've got Stein.
Mm-hmm.
You can build those connections in state. But Ohio, I don't think you totally want to punt on that. You still want to be active up there. So that would make some sense, specifically Conrad, because, heck, he's worked in Ohio now, right? Not only and from there.
In addition to all of that, his job when he started as the GA at Kentucky was to do the stuff that Vince didn't want to do, right? Whether it's from a coaching or recruiting perspective. So, Vince is the recruiting coordinator. He's got a lot of stuff to do. He's introducing CJ to all of the people he has connections with. Obviously, it's different if Vince has known these guys for 20 or 30 years, but CJ's well connected in that state thanks to his experience with Merrill. In addition to what he's done at Kent State and also just being an Ohio native. So that's something to consider. I know a lot of Kentucky fans would be fired up. Finally, a guy who didn't wear a red jersey on our coaching staff. But, yeah, so that's out there. The one we didn't mention was Eastside Joe Price, going to be Kentucky's wide receivers coach. UTSA right now, he's been there for, 6 years, I want to say?
Yeah.
He was previously a high school coach.
Position coach 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
This guy's got a very interesting background to me, Nick. I think he was a Division II receiver, had a really good career. His dad was a longtime high school coach in Texas, so he kind of, he stopped his playing career's over in 2005, and he starts coaching high school, I believe, in 2009. He moves to North Shore, Nick, which was just like an absolute powerhouse. He's at North Shore for 4, 5, 6 years. They won 2 state titles. They won a national championship.
Oh, wow.
At some point. And, he's a receivers coach at a high school, but he was also kind of like their kind of director of football ops. Like he was helping kids get recruited and everything that comes with that. Sounds like he was like setting up camps and all, setting up all of that kind of stuff, right? In the recruiting space, hands-on. And so he's got kind of that unique background in Houston. He goes and becomes like a member of the recruiting department at Illinois for Lovie Smith before he goes to UTSA. He works in UTSA's recruiting department for a couple years. When Stein is moved from receivers coach to offensive coordinator, quarterbacks coach, Price becomes a receivers coach at UTSA. And he's been there since. This guy, from all I've uncovered, is deeply connected in Houston. And so it's interesting, right? Like you get him and Sloan, like Sloan deeply connected in Louisiana, Price deeply connected in Houston, 2 very fertile areas, but not necessarily areas where Kentucky has recruited in the past. But we're coming off a class where they kind of surprisingly had a fair amount of success in the Lone Star State recruiting Texas.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be interesting. I think Price here, he seems like he's got very high ceiling potentially as a recruiter coming in here. And so interested to see kind of where he's used and kind of what he can do. But the expectation is he's going to go and recruit Houston for Kentucky, and they've got a chance to make, I think, some noise there.
Hello, noise. I also like that just Eastside Joe.
Eastside, and they call him Eastside Joe.
Yeah, that's like Eastside Joe knows the right guy, right? He knows a guy. You want to know Eastside Joe because he knows a guy that knows a guy that knows a guy. Which I do want to just briefly mention something because the chat keeps talking about it. You're wasting your breath with Austin Novosad conversations, talk, whatever. Like I know the Oregon insiders were mentioning it early on. That was a lot of conjecture. Maybe he wants to. I don't think he wants to come here and be a backup. So you're wasting your time. So.
Yeah. Also, Also, if Dante Moore goes pro, what is Oregon going to do? Are they going to do the transfer? Are they going to do Novosad? Like, they've got to figure that all out. Again, Cutter Boley's a priority for them.
Yeah.
They're trying to get that done. So
yeah.
Again, phrasing is trending in that direction. We'll see how it plays out. Now, we all know how this world works. There's a lot of moving parts.
Yeah.
There's a song and a dance everyone has to do. Contracts have made this a little more complicated.
Mm-hmm.
Agents are involved.
Yep.
But he's, again, the clubhouse favorite.
Yeah.
To be Kentucky starting quarterback next year is Cutter Boley. Hodgenville's finest.
Speaking of trends, I hope luck gets pulled some because the college football playoff is this weekend. And you need to get in on the action by signing up for BetMGM right now. Go ahead, get out your phone, download the app, and get on BetMGM today. Because here's the other part, too. Like, we got bowl games tonight. The 68 Ventures Bowl. What was the other one? The Cure Bowl?
I'm locked in on the Xbox Bowl. I'm locked in on the Gasparilla Bowl.
Oh, love a good Gasparilla. Hell yeah. Oh, we got the Bean Bowl coming up, too. You can bring your baked beans and go watch the Cardinal Birds and the Toledo Rockets, a couple of Kentucky opponents from this year. And you can wager on them all with BetMGM. And when you sign up with bonus code ON3, you're going to get a first bet bonus up to $1,500. So if you place a bet and it doesn't win, you get up to $1,500 in bonus bets back. Just remember, it's whatever that first bet's on. So whether you bet 20 or 100, if it doesn't win, you're going to get 20 or 100 back in bonus bets to play on BetMGM. It's ball season, man. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be a lot of fun. Make it legendary with BetMGM. See BetMGM.com for terms. It's 21 plus only. U.S. promotional offers not available in New York, Nevada, Ontario, or Puerto Rico. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In the U.S., call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP in Arizona. 1-800-327-5050 in Massachusetts. 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa or 1-800-981-0023 in Puerto Rico. That first bet offers for new customers only, subject to eligibility requirements. Rewards are non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire in 7 days in partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. Sign up for BetMGM and make this one legendary college football bowl season. All right, Luckett. I know you probably don't have Cure Bowl angles.
I'm going to put some trends at some point. I'll sit down specifically for the playoff games on KS Board. This is why you got to get the KS Board. Yeah, we've already got our bowl thread up and running. We'll have a playoff thread so we can separate the two. We need no nonsense. Playoff, no nonsense. You want the nonsense, you go to our bowl thread.
We got nonsense already last night where Jacksonville State tried to run a flea flicker from the 10 and Troy just grabbed the ball at the goal line. It was one of the more bizarre touchdowns I've seen.
Touchdown, I think, of the game for Troy.
That sounds right. Yeah. So that was a hard-hitting, that was a fun football game to watch. It went a little late. I wasn't able to stay up to the end, but a lot of chaos is forthcoming. If there is one trend from the one season we have in 12-team college football playoff era, so the first rounds are blowouts. Indiana did a little funny business at the end of the game to make that a more respectable final score, but they got their teeth kicked in by Notre Dame.
It was over early,
Yeah. So, look at 4 games last year weren't even close. I believe the average margin was 15, something like that. Which game is most likely to be single digits? Will we get an outright upset on a team's home turf in the opening round of the college football playoff?
Well, I would say I don't know if Alabama or Oklahoma can score enough to be a blowout. Right?
Yeah.
That one feels like first 1 to 17 potentially, or even I could see a 14-10 game there. I would be surprised if Miami Texas A&M's a blowout. I think both those offenses can keep pace. That's got the most potential, most firework potential. I could see a shootout breaking out between them.
Because we've seen A&M get in shootouts before.
Then just let's press the Malachi Tony button on offense for Miami.
I hate to make it to, kind of make it all come down to this. But like, are we getting bad Carson Beck or good Carson Beck? Because good Carson Beck can cover the 3.5. Bad Carson, hell, they can win outright. Bad Carson Beck, and we're hearing the Aggie war hymn all afternoon. That feels like the just dumbest down analysis ever. But my God, because bad Carson Beck, I mean, it's really bad, and good Carson Beck is, it's why he was Heisman frontrunner there for about a month of the season.
Nick, if you go to yeah, you're right. But if you go to game on paper, like these teams are about as evenly matched. Like it's all green, and then the weaknesses align up with the weaknesses. Like Miami's run offense is not great, but Texas A&M's run defense has not been great. Like Miami's great on third down, but Texas A&M's defense is great on third down. And it's kind of the opposite. Like this is a very fun matchup, and it feels like
it smells like an over.
Yeah, it feels like an over, but like it could come down to which quarterback just makes the bigger mistake in this game. And we've seen Marcel Reed have some tough moments, like he was a tale of two halves, like when they almost lost to South Carolina at home for him.
Yeah.
But their receivers can go, but then Miami, I think, Malachi Toney can go on the outside. It should be a really fun game there at Kyle Field.
49.5 is the total, so 27-24, that'll get you home on the over.
Yeah, to me, when you get in those high 40s, you really, if you think it's going to be a close game and one team's going to get to 30, you've got a really good chance.
Yeah.
To get that one over.
There's a lot of shootout potential there. But to your other point, in the Alabama-Oklahoma game, that total's at 40.5, where, hard to
like Alabama, how are they healthier? Do they get Cuevas back on offense, the tight end? Are they getting LT Overton back?
He's out. He's been ruled out.
That stinks because that's probably their most disruptive defensive player. But Oklahoma's offense, like it's got a lot of issues, and if you don't give them, here's why this game and why like I wouldn't love betting the under, because Alabama cannot run the ball at all. They're going to be in third and long all the time against this Oklahoma pass rush. That seems like a disaster, but also Oklahoma's offense is so inefficient they could have 3 and outs. Give Alabama short fields, and
then there's the turnover turns into easy points aspect as well too.
To me, Nick, I'd almost be like, all right, which side do you think is going to win? Just bet that side to score a defensive touchdown.
Ooh, that's fun. That can be juicy.
Getting some juice there. Like that to me is because it could honestly be a over because of defensive scores or because of field position. Like, because that's where Georgia really killed Bama. If you go back and look at that SEC championship box score, it was just field position. Like they just dominated field position. And that's where Bama, I think, could get in trouble against Oklahoma. If they do not allow that to happen and they don't like cough up the football a bunch of times, I think Bama probably wins, but easier said than done.
Much, much easier said than done. That's one of 2 rematches in the playoffs. So we had an SEC championship game rematch between Alabama and Georgia. Now Alabama's playing Oklahoma for the second time this season. And then Tulane, this is their second trip to Oxford this year. There's 17.5 point dogs.
Same stadium, yeah.
I believe the spread was right around this the last go around too, and I lost my ass off betting on the Fighting John Summeralls. You would think that Tulane would take a better swing at it this go around without Kiffin as the coordinator, with a better read on things. You got one last game with your coach, but it's just they aren't exactly the highest flying offense out there with Retzlaff. I don't know how much you can trust him to be able to put up points. I'll probably be staying away from that game, and I'll probably stay away from Will Stein's game as well. It keeps teetering on that key number of 21.5 or 20.5 for the nightcap out in Eugene between the 5 Oregon and the 12 James Madison. I wrote about it earlier this week. James Madison's defense has suffocated pretty much everybody they play. They're number 1 in success rate, number 4 in EPA. They got a stout unit, but the only power conference team they played was that Louisville offense. Even when Louisville was at full strength offensively, they weren't exactly lighting the world on fire. But in that game, outside of 2 big plays from Isaac Brown and Chris Bell, Louisville only had 122 yards. So I'm curious, like, how hot are the takes going to be for Kentucky fans after watching Will Stein's offense and Jay Bateman's defense this weekend, right? How panicked or excited are we going to be? Because I think on the flip side of the coin, Stein hasn't had his receivers all year, and it looks like he's getting them back for this game. They could just light the world on fire, you know?
Which is why I would look at James Madison team total under, right? Because if it becomes kind of the slog and Oregon's got to play a game like this, they've won games like that. Because that's the weakest unit in this game is James Madison's offense by a significant margin. I think most people who saw them last time, they couldn't throw the ball at all against Louisville.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
They were doing the Sluka rotation thing. Yeah.
So that would be the one I would like James Madison team total under. And then back to the other game, Nick, I just want to touch on this right quick before we get into the Stein angle. To beat Ole Miss, I really think you've got to be really good, solid, and efficient on defense, and you've got to be able to run the ball on offense, keep that offense on the sideline. Tulane cannot run the ball. Like, their traditional run game stinks this year, and their defense has not been very good.
No.
They're like 100th in success rate. Like, to me, it's a disastrous matchup for Tulane. Like, that game went the way it went last time because it's it's a matchup, I think, nightmare for Tulane. To me, I would lay the points with Ole Miss.
You heard it here first, folks.
Let out your frustration game if you're Ole Miss and then next week would be, or the next game against Georgia would really be, I think, the tough test for them, which could be another rematch like you talked about.
A lot of rematches.
And then to Oregon in these spots with inferior teams like this, Nick, they tip similar to Indiana. When they get against inferior teams, they just beat the brakes off of them, typically, with Dan Lanning. I kind of expect something similar here. The one caution will be, can James Madison's defense hang in there long enough to give them a chance? But it's going to be hard, I think, for James Madison to score. And then, are the people going to overreact? Yeah. Overreact and underreact.
Love it.
But mostly overreact. But I expect Oregon to win that football game. A&M Miami, more from the Kentucky angle, I think it's a true coin flip.
Right.
I think I trust the Aggie coaching staff more than I do Mario Cristobal in a big game if it comes down to, fourth quarter.
Mario.
But even Elko made some punt decisions in that Texas game that I thought were ridiculous. So who knows? I mean, 2 defensive head coaches there. Who knows? Well, I guess Cristobal's an offensive line guy, not a defensive guy, but who knows? Two conservative potentially head coaches there. What that could turn into.
It's going to be fun to have. I mean, it feels like we didn't have any dip at all, right? You got things cooled off with just Army-Navy last week, but we're in bowls, we're in college football playoffs, and before you know it, it'll be transfer portal time for the Kentucky football program. But,
a couple weeks. A lot of people are asking, like, players to watch, this or that. We'll tell you when we hear things, but the good thing about this portal setup, Nick, we have time to actually know what players are available.
Get your head around it a little bit.
So I'm going to have a big board for you week of.
Yeah.
Portal opens on Friday. Early that week, I'm going to have a big board of kind of targets for Kentucky, and we'll go from there and work off that. So that's coming, and we'll have just kind of I'll have a little scouting report on those guys and little blurbs on them. So that's coming. We'll have that week of the portal, and then we'll adjust as needed once things start. Once we start flying off the handle when it actually gets here.
Yeah, but we've got plenty of time. Got to go hang out with the fat man some next week. Enjoy some cookies, open some presents. It's going to be a holly jolly time of year. I guess we'll still do a show next week. We haven't talked about it. I still don't even know what my Christmas plans are. So we're kind of figuring it out on the fly, just like Will Stein and Co. But it's a good time. We hope you enjoyed hanging out with us.
We should just go live Christmas Day, Nick. Christmas morning while our kids are open up simultaneously. The wives would love that.
They would be thrilled.
We could just be on our computers while all the madness is going on.
They would be thrilled. Either way, it's been a pleasure hanging out with you all. Hopefully, we get to watch the Kentucky volleyball team win a national championship this weekend. It's a lot of fun. It's a great time. It's a great time hanging out with you. For Adam Lockett, I'm Nick Roush. Go Cats and go Kroger.